Good afternoon and welcome to the Committee on Commerce and Labor. Secretary, will you please take roll?
Assembly members Anderson, Carter, Cole, Hardy, Howdigy, Kasama, Miller, Monroe Moreno, O'Neill, Roth, Torres Fawcett, Yeager, Urick, and Chair Marzola.
I am here. Welcome everyone that is here with us today in Carson City, those joining us in Las Vegas, and those tuning in over the internet. Today we will hear three bills: Assembly Bill 142, Assembly Bill 375, and Assembly Bill 430. We will also conduct a work session to take action on measures that the committee has heard in previous meetings. I will be doing the work session first, and I will not be taking the assembly bills in order. Before we get started, I'd like to make a few housekeeping announcements. Members of the public may provide testimony in various ways, which are all listed in the committee agenda. When testifying, please remember to turn on your microphone to speak and off to listen. Also remember to please state and spell your name for the record. If you have handouts for the committee, please provide 20 copies to the committee secretary prior to your testimony. Committee information is available on Nellis, which can be accessed through the legislature's website. You may also watch our meetings through the Nellis or the legislature's YouTube channel. We ask that public comments be kept to 2 minutes so that everyone can be accommodated. Public comment may also be submitted in writing, either in addition to or in lieu of testifying. As always, I expect courtesy and respect in all our interactions, even if we may not agree. Finally, if you can please turn off or silence all your electronic devices, especially your cell phones. And with that, we will move to our work session. It is not customary for the committee to take testimony or otherwise rehear bills during a work session. However, I may invite witness to come forward for clarification or questions during our consideration for a measure. We will start with Assembly Bill 12.
Thank you, Chair. Assembly Bill 12 revises requirements for obtaining judicial review of a decision of the Board of Review concerning a claim for unemployment benefits. It was sponsored on behalf of the Employment Security Division of the Department of Employment Training and Rehabilitation, heard February 19th, and there are no proposed amendments.
Thank you. Committee members, are there any questions? I don't see any. I'll entertain a motion to pass on Assembly Bill 12.
So moved, Madam Chair.
I have a first from Vice Chair Howdigy. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a second from Assembly Member Hardy. Are there any discussions on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion carries unanimously. I will assign that floor statement to Assembly Member Anderson. Next is Assembly Bill 21.
Assembly Bill 21 revises provisions relating to unemployment compensation. This is sponsored on behalf of the Employment Security Division with Dieter, heard on February 19th, and there are no proposed amendments.
Members, are there any questions on Assembly Bill 21? I don't see any. I'll entertain a motion to pass on Assembly Bill 21.
So moved.
I have a first from Vice Chair Howdigy. Is there a second?
Second.
I don't know who second first, but Assembly Member Monroe Moreno. Are there any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion carries. I'll assign that floor statement to Assembly Member Hardy. Next is Assembly Bill 38.
Assembly Bill 38 revises various provisions relating to housing. It's sponsored on behalf of the Housing Division of the Department of Business and Industry. It was heard on February 26th. Steve Acroft, the Administrator of the Housing Division, proposes the following amendments. 1, amend the bill to remove all references to travel trailers in Chapter 489 of NRS. Amend the bill to add additional requirements regarding investigation by the administrator of the actions of a licensee and the confidentiality of a complaint and other information received by the Housing Division under the provisions of Nevada Revised Statutes 489.431. Amend Section 9 of the bill to remove provisions that provide that a manufactured building for which a certificate and label of compliance has been issued is not required to comply with certain local building codes and ordinances. 4, amend sections 13 and 14 of the bill to remove the requirement that a contract for sale be provided to the housing division by a dealer in addition to a completed dealer's report of sale for sales of new, used, or rebuilt manufactured homes, mobile homes, manufactured buildings, commercial coaches, or factory-built housing. 5, delete section 36 of the bill and remove section 39 to conform with the deletion of section 36. 6, amend subsection 1A of section 37 of the bill. 7, amend subsection 1B of section 37 of the bill. 8, amend section 38 of the bill to add and unless the rental agreement or lease states otherwise. And number 9, amend section 40 of the bill to delete seller, transfer, and replace with buyer or transferee.
Thank you. Committee members, are there any questions? I don't see any. I'll entertain a motion to amend and do pass in Assembly Bill 38.
So moved.
I have a first from Vice Chair Howdige. Is there a second? I have a second from Assembly Member Urick. Are there any discussions on the motion? I don't see any. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion carries unanimously. Next is Assembly Bill floor statement to Assembly Member Carter. Next is Assembly Bill 215.
Assembly Bill 215 revised provisions relating to employment, sponsored by Assemblymember Monroe Moreno. Heard on March 19th. There are 5 proposed amendments from the sponsor, and that is to 1, add Assembly members Hibbets and Moore as primary co-sponsors. 2, amend subsection 1 of section 2 of the bill to reduce from 48 to 40 hours. In any 1 week, a child under the age of 16 years of age may be employed, permitted, or suffered to work at any gainful occupation with certain exceptions. 3, amend subsection 2 of section 2 of the bill to add stage production or theatrical performance, lifeguard at a pool, and an employee at an arcade to those occupations that are exempt from the prohibition set forth in subsection 2. 4, amend subsection 2 of section 2 of the bill to change the time period that a child is not permitted to work to 11 p.m. through 6 a.m. on any night immediately preceding a school day. And 5, amend subsection 2B of section 2 of the bill to clarify the provisions prohibiting the employment of children applies to those who are 16 years of age and under 19 years of age who are enrolled during a current academic year in a public school, private school, or charter school.
Thank you. Members, are there any discussions on the bill? I don't see any. I will take a motion to amend and do pass.
So moved.
I have a first from Vice Chair Howdige. Is there a second? I have a second from Assembly Member Anderson. Is there any discussion on the motion? I don't see any. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion carries. I will sign that floor statement to Assembly Member Monroe Moreno. Next, we will move to Assembly Bill 231.
Assembly Bill 231 requires a service contract to impose certain duties on the provider of the service contract, sponsored by Assemblymember Hunt and Senator Neal. Heard on February 24th. There are 3 proposed amendments. Amend subsection 1G2 of section 1 to specify that the allowance to a holder of a service contract for sleeping accommodations at a hotel is based on a nightly rate of the United States General Services Administration per diem for lodging. 2, amend subsection 1G2 of section 1 of the bill to add a furnace or heater that is covered under a service contract, thereby subjecting a furnace or heater to the same requirements set forth in the bill as an air conditioner. And 3, amend the bill to clarify the measure applies only to home warranty contracts.
Thank you. Members, are there any questions? Assembly Member Kusama.
Thank you, Chair. Just wanted to put on the record that there is so much about this bill that I like, so many things that can be improved upon, but I still have some concern with some of the hard requirements that I just think might be impossible for some of the businesses to reach, even if they were committed to doing it. And so with that, I'll be a no, and some of my colleagues will as well.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? I will entertain a motion to amend and do pass Assembly Bill 231.
So moved.
I have a first from Vice Chair Howdige. Is there a second? I have a second from Assembly Member Monroe Moreno. Is there any discussion on the motion? I don't see any. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Thank you. I have a nay from Assembly Member O'Neill, a nay from Kusama, a nay from Urick, and a nay from Hardy. Motion carries. I will assign that floor statement to Hunt, to Assemblymember Hunt. Next is Assembly Bill 305.
Assembly Bill 305 limits the amount a provider of health care may charge for filling out certain forms associated with certain leaves of absence, sponsored by the Assembly Committee on Commerce and Labor, heard on March 10th. There are two proposed amendments, and the first is to amend subsection 1 of the bill to increase the maximum amount that a provider of health care may charge from $10 to $30 and require the maximum amount to be adjusted each calendar year in an amount corresponding to the percentage of increase or decrease in this consumer price index, published in the U.S. Department of Labor for the preceding year, and it requires the Department of Health and Human Services to, on or before January 1st of each year, determine the amount of the adjustment required and post that adjusted amount on its internet website.
Thank you. Assembly members, are there any questions on Assembly Bill 305? I don't see any. I will take a motion to amend and do pass.
So moved.
I have a first from Vice Chair Howdiggy. Is there a second? I have a second from Assemblymember Monroe Moreno. Is there any discussion on the motion? Assemblymember O'Neill.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I'm going to vote to get it out of the committee and onto the floor. In the meantime, I want to do a little more work with talking to some of the physicians in the industries about this issue.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? And I just want the committee to know that after I presented this bill, I did have a chance to sit with the Nevada State Medical Association, and the new amendments that you see today that I did accept was their amendments. And so I just wanted to put that on the record, that they are now in support. And with that, I will take a, all those in favor say aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion carries. I'll sign that floor statement to myself. Next is Assembly Bill 371.
Assembly Bill 371 enacts the Cosmetology Licensure Compact, sponsored by Assemblymember Torres Fawcett, heard March 17th, and there are no proposed amendments.
Thank you. Members, are there any questions on Assembly Bill 371? I don't see any. I'll entertain a motion to do pass on Assembly Bill 371.
So moved.
I have a first from Vice Chair Howdiggy. Is there a second? Second from Assemblymember Monroe Moreno. Is there any discussion on the motion? Assemblymember Cole.
While I appreciate all of the various compacts that we've been looking at, for this one, the reciprocity is already happening, and it doesn't seem like we have the pipeline issues that we do in the other areas. So I will be a no on this one. Thank you.
Is there anyone else? Assemblymember O'Neill.
Thank you, Chair. Ditto.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Nay. Please raise your hands. I have a nay from Assemblymember O'Neill and a nay from Assemblymember Cole and Assemblymember Hardy. Motion carries. I will assign that floor statement to Assemblymember Torres Fawcett. Our final work session bill is Assembly Bill 413.
Assembly Bill 413 provides for the creation of the Southern Nevada Healthcare Workforce Apprenticeship Pilot Program, sponsored by Assemblymember Nguyen, heard on March 19th. There are two proposed amendments to amend the bill to replace the Department of Business and Industry with the Southern Nevada Local Workforce Development Board, also known as Workforce Connections, and amend subsection 2B of section 1 to replace 2 with 4.
Thank you. Members, are there any questions? I don't see any. I'll entertain a motion to amend and do pass on Assembly Bill 413.
So moved.
I have a first from Vice Chair Howdiggy. Is there a second? I have a second from Assemblymember Hardy. Is there any discussion on the motion? I don't see any. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion carries. I will assign that floor statement to Assemblymember Nguyen. Thank you, members, and that will conclude our work session for today. I will now open the hearing on Assembly Bill 375. This measure makes revisions relating to intoxicating liquor. Welcome, Mr. Speaker and Assemblymember Gurr. Okay. You may begin when you're ready.
Good afternoon, Chair Marzola, Vice Chair Howdigi, and members of the Commerce and Labor Committee. My name is Steve Yeager. I represent Assembly District 9, which is in Southwest Las Vegas, and it is an honor to present Assembly Bill 375 to you this afternoon. With me at the table is Assemblymember Gurr and also Peter Saba from the Restaurant Association. With your permission, Chair, Assemblymember Gurr and I will make some opening remarks, and then we'll hand it over to Mr. Saba to take you through the bill and some amendments. I first wanted to wish the committee members a happy Basque Heritage Day at the legislature, and I also wanted to let you know, happenstance has it that it is also National Cocktail Day, which makes this a very fitting day to hear Assembly Bill 375. Before I get started, I will note there's been a lot of interest in this bill, and admittedly there's still a lot of work to do on this bill. We look forward to this hearing this afternoon and continuing to work with interested parties to try to get this bill to where it needs to be to earn this committee's support. As you'll hear later, we do have some amendments, and the amendments always seem to generate additional concerns from folks, so we welcome that input, and we look forward to continuing to work on it. So let's get into it. You all might remember during the pandemic, alcohol deliveries were allowed during the COVID-19 pandemic. This bill seeks to provide a statewide framework for alcohol delivery that local governments, and I want to repeat this, local governments would be able to opt out of or enact further restrictions or requirements. Let me tell you about the three main goals of the bill. Number one goal is to help our small businesses and restaurants in what is a very challenging economic climate that we find ourselves in. Number two is to provide convenience for customers and to disincentivize them to drive under the influence when they might be legally impaired but want another drink or two. And number three, provide a new source of revenue for DUI enforcement and education. I've said this before in lots of committees, and I'll say it again, the most effective deterrent to criminal activity is the chance of getting caught. It's not the penalty, it's a chance of getting caught. That's why the money generated from this bill will go to the DUI prevention and education efforts enumerated in NRS 484C.454. I am still working with folks to figure out whether that language in the bill should be more prescriptive or whether that money should be shared with other entities focused on this work. But I think we're all interested in trying to cut down on the amount of impaired driving that is happening on our roadways. And then finally, the very last section of the bill designates the traditional Bass drink, the pecan punch, as the official state drink of Nevada. We thought there was no better day to hear this bill than Basque Heritage Day at the Nevada Legislature. And I just want to say a couple quick things about that. The designation as the official state drink is more than just a title. It is a recognition of the deep and lasting contributions of Nevada's Basque community, and more broadly, of the immigrant communities that have shaped our state. The pecan punch is not just a cocktail, it is a cultural tradition that has endured for generations. It made its way to the American West through Basque immigrants who carried their traditions with them as they settled right here in Nevada. In places like Reno and Elko, the drink became a cherished part of the Basque American experience, a symbol of heritage, unity, and resilience. Louis' Bass Corner in Reno, JT's in Gardnerville, the Star in Elko, and many beloved establishments have kept this tradition alive, ensuring that the pecan punch remains a connection to the past and a celebration of community. What makes the pecan punch special is not just its history, but it's what it represents. In Basque culture, it is traditionally served before dinner, not as a means of excess, but as a way to bring people together. It is a testament to the values of camaraderie, moderation, if you do it right, and tradition, values that extend beyond the Basque community and into the very fabric of Nevada's diverse culture. Chair, that concludes my remarks, and with your permission, I would now like to hand it over to my colleague, Assemblymember Gurr.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Chair Marzola and Vice Chair Howdigi. My name is Bert Gurr. Let me spell that for you. B-E-R-T-G-U-R-R. I represent Assembly District 33, the largest district in Nevada, and probably where an awful lot of sheep herders drank a lot of wine and pecans. But the Speaker pretty much covered a whole bunch of what I was going to say. So there's just another part of it that is really, really important now. At one time, this bill's been introduced. It's tried to make the pecan an official drink over the years, and one of the hang-ups was that the main ingredient in the pecan was made not in the United States. Well, now there's no better time to make this designation official. Our very own Farino Distillery in Reno has recently acquired the global rights to the Amir liquor, or liqueur, depending on how you want to say it, the key ingredient in pecan punch. And we'll be distilling it right here in Nevada. This is a historic moment, not only in Nevada. Not only is Nevada home to rich Basque culture, but now we will be the source of this vital piece of our heritage. Making the pecan punch our official state drink is a perfect way to honor this legacy while celebrating our state's future as a leader in craft spirits and cultural preservation. Today in the audience, we also we're fortunate to have with us Mark Maynard, who is the documentarian behind the Pecan Land, the quest for the perfect pecan punch. As I said on the floor, I hope he didn't have to drink every place he went to do that. But his film captures the significance of this drink in Nevada's history and the passion behind preserving its tradition. His work highlights the pecan punch is more than just a cocktail. It's a symbol of identity, community, and the enduring legacy of our Basque heritage. So this afternoon, as we reflect on our traditions that make Nevada unique, let's honor the Basques and embrace the values of unity and heritage that define our great state. Let's solidify pecan punch's place in Nevada. Thank you.
And Chair Steve Yeager, for the record, with your permission, I'd like to hand it over to Mr. Saba, who I think has a PowerPoint presentation to take you through some of the technical details of the cocktails to go portion of the bill.
Good afternoon, Chair, members of the committee. My name is Peter Saba, S-A-B as in Bravo A, and I'm the Senior Government Affairs Manager for the Nevada Restaurant Association. I'm here today on behalf of thousands of Nevada small business owners, employees, and restaurant families to proudly introduce Assembly Bill 375, a bill that is pro-business, pro-safety, and pro-Nevada. AB 375 modernizes Nevada's liquor laws by allowing restaurants to safely sell and deliver alcohol to go, just like big chain grocery stores and liquor retailers already do. This is not about cutting corners. It's not about weakening oversight. It's about leveling the playing field, supporting our restaurant industry, and implementing a policy that is smart, regulated, and modern. Across the country, over 30 states still have alcohol to go laws, and the results are clear. Businesses have grown, jobs have been protected, and public safety has not been compromised. AB 375 ensures that Nevada does not get left behind. It delivers a balanced solution, one that strengthens our economy, respects local control, and builds in the kind of strict safeguard Nevadans expect and deserve. AB 375 modernizes Nevada's liquor laws in a way that is both responsible and fair. It allows restaurants to sell and deliver mixed drinks to go in sealed and tamper-evident packaging, ensuring customers enjoy the same convenience already available from liquor and grocery stores. For too long, Nevada's restaurants have been held to a different standard. AB 375 changes that. It levels the playing field while preserving strong safeguard. This bill does not remove oversight. It enhances it. Every step includes a safety check. Every actor is accountable. Under Section 1, subsections 1A and 1B, licensed restaurants and third-party delivery services are permitted to sell and deliver alcoholic beverages only within jurisdictions where they are licensed to operate. That means local control remains intact. Section 1, subsection 2, establishes mandatory tamper-evident packaging, which provides clear proof of compliance. These seals don't just protect businesses, they also protect responsible customers from open container violations and give law enforcement a simple visual standard for compliance. Under subsection 3, the bill directs the Department of Taxation to establish and enforce safeguards. 3A, driver training and alcohol education certification. 3B, use of age verification technology with time-stamped delivery records. 3C, Deliveries must originate from the restaurant and occur only during regular business hours. 3D, promote coordination with local enforcement to ensure uniform statewide compliance. And 3E, establish a 50-cent surcharge on every alcohol-to-go sale dedicated to DUI prevention through the Ignition Interlock Device Program, which funds DUI enforcement, treatment assistance, law enforcement training, public outreach, and the statewide case management and tracking system directly supporting the reduction of impaired driving in Nevada. Subsection 5 protects local autonomy, giving municipalities the power to opt out depending on what's best for their communities. Subsection 6 gives the department the ability to enforce penalties, including fines or suspensions for businesses that don't comply. And proudly, Section 5 designates pecan punch as the official state drink. This bill isn't a patchwork fix. It's a modern, enforceable, and tested regulatory framework, one that meets the moment. AB 375 is not an experiment. It is tested, responsible, and a necessary step forward. In 2020, when restaurants were forced to close their dining rooms during the pandemic, Nevada temporarily allowed alcohol to go. And like many states, we saw the benefit immediately. Restaurants were able to stay afloat, workers were able to stay employed, and consumers who were already ordering food for takeout were given a responsible, safe way to enjoy beverages at home. That temporary measure ended here in the state. But in the years since, more than 30 states have adopted long-term alcohol-to-go policies, including states like Texas, New York, California, and Florida. They've moved forward. Nevada hasn't. And that's what AB 375 aims to change. We're not asking the legislature to make a speculative decision. The demand is already here. Nationally, over 90% of restaurants in states where alcohol-to-go is legal now offer it, and more than half of consumers say it influences their takeout decision. Food alone is not enough. For many restaurants, alcohol makes up to 80% of profit margins, while food averages just 5%. Without that margin, many restaurants simply can't stay open. AB 375 creates an equitable opportunity for restaurants to survive and grow. It supports workers, it responds to consumer demand, and it does all of this without compromising public safety. Nevada's restaurant industry plays a critical role in our state's economy. It generates nearly $32 billion in annual economic activity. It contributes about $2 billion in state tax revenue and nearly $500 million at the county level. More than 223,000 Nevadans, 12% of our state's workforce, depend directly on this industry. And these aren't just numbers. These are jobs. These are family-owned restaurants. These are Nevadans who work as servers, bartenders, line cooks, and delivery drivers, real people who stand to benefit directly from this bill. The voices of Nevada's business owners tell the story the best. Mimi Butler, who owns Bueno's Grill, called alcohol to go a whole new market that wasn't there before. Derek Stonebarger, owner of Rebar, and said it gave him the opportunity to showcase unique liquors and locally made products like Smoke Wagon, products big box retailers don't carry. And Kyle Vanucci of Michikonen Mexican Restaurant said it best. Being able to sell our signature margaritas to go gave us a way to stay connected with customers. Nevada's restaurants want this option, and the consumers are ready for it. AB 375 requires all to-go alcoholic beverages to be sealed with tamper-evident packaging. It isn't about locking down a drink until it gets home. It's about setting a clear, visible standard that protects everyone involved. Tamper-evident packaging across every industry has one purpose: to show whether something has been opened or altered. It doesn't stop intent. It doesn't need to. What it does is create a point of proof, something objective, something visible, and something enforceable. Let's be honest here. Anyone determined to drink behind the wheel can already walk into the 7-Eleven, buy a $2 tall can, or pour vodka into a hydro flask. This behavior exists with or without this bill. But what this bill does is protect the people doing the right thing. That includes the honest, law-abiding customer who picks up dinner and a cocktail to go, drives straight home, and never opens the drink in the car. Tamper-evident packaging gives them that protection. It clearly shows this was sealed when it left the restaurant. It's something new. It's not something new. It's not something that needs to be complicated. It's the same trusted system we use every day, from the salads you get at Trader Joe's to the security tape you cut through to open your Amazon package. It's not about stopping intent. It's about setting a clear standard of accountability, one that law enforcement, businesses, and customers all recognize instantly. It protects law enforcement by giving officers a clear visual cue. It protects restaurants and delivery drivers by showing they followed the law. And most importantly, it ensures that if someone chooses to violate the law, they, and only they, are held accountable. Not the restaurant that followed every rule, not the delivery driver who verified the ID, and not the bill that made the service possible. This is a practical, proven safeguard. It doesn't pretend to prevent bad behavior. It gives everyone involved the tools to act responsibly and be protected when they do. In addition to everything already built into this bill, we also have the advantage of using systems that are already working right here in Nevada. Third-party delivery platforms like Uber Eats, DoorDash, and Grubhub already use multi-step ID verification protocols, and they've been doing so successfully in the state for more than 5 years. When delivering alcohol from grocery stores and liquor stores, these systems require scanning a government-issued ID, verifying age at the point of delivery, and confirming the recipient is physically present. No alcohol is left at the door. No delivery is completed without a verified ID. These aren't pilot programs or untested ideas. They're already working every day here in the state under existing law. AB 375 simply allows restaurants to use the same proven systems that grocery and liquor stores have been using for years. It applies tested technology to a new setting while maintaining the same level of accountability. Together, these safeguards make alcohol to go not just legal, but safe, responsible, and fully enforceable. When we talk about public safety, we don't need hypotheticals. We can look at what's happening right now in our own backyard. Just last month, Nevada saw a 76% increase in DUI-related fatal crashes. DUI fatalities rose by more than 60% compared to the same time last year. Washoe County saw an 83% spike. Lyon County, a 400% jump. We know that expanding access to alcohol brings questions. We share those concerns. That's why we looked at the data and not assumptions. Between 2019 and 2021, DUI fatalities rose 53% in states that prohibited alcohol to go. In the states that allowed it, the increase was just 12%. That's not a coincidence. States that adopted responsible alcohol to go policies with clear safeguards saw better public safety outcomes. It turns out when you give people the option to drink at home, they're less likely to take the risk of getting behind the wheel. And AB 375 doesn't just follow that model, it goes further. It dedicates millions each year to DUI prevention programs. This doesn't just preserve safety, it funds it. Fatalities are only a part of the picture. When we zoom out and look at overall DUI data from 2019 to 2023, the story becomes even clearer. In states that adopted alcohol to go and delivery policies, DUI rates either decline or remain stable. But in states that did not, DUI rates rose year after year. This tells us something critical. Alcohol to go is not a threat to public safety. In many cases, it's actually a tool to enhance it. When you give people safe, legal options, you reduce the likelihood they'll choose riskier behaviors. And just as importantly, this strategy aligns with where Nevada is already going. The Office of Traffic Safety is currently updating the statewide plan for addressing impaired driving. That plan recognizes that we need modern tools, modern enforcement, and modern choices for responsible consumers. AB 375 fits directly into that vision. It's not working against Nevada's public safety goals, it's helping us achieve them. And the data backs that up from independent research from the R Street Institute, the Journal of Forensic Sciences, and the National Institute on Alcohol Abuse and Alcoholism all confirm the same thing. Responsible alcohol to go policy is not just good economics, it's a smart, enforceable, and public safety strategy. Beyond improving public safety, AB 375 is a major economic driver for Nevada's restaurant industry. Based on real-world case studies from restaurant partners, we estimate that the average licensed restaurant will sell just over 127 to-go drinks per week. Now multiply that by roughly 3,450 licensed restaurants across the state, and you're looking at an estimated 438,000 alcohol to-go sales each week. Over the course of the year, that adds up to approximately 23 million drinks sold through safe, regulated alcohol to go. At a very generous average of $10 per drink, that translates to $228 million in new restaurant revenue annually. This isn't a hypothetical. It's rooted in real business behavior, real customer demand, and real operating data. That's real money flowing into our local economy, supporting jobs, and strengthening the communities that depend on our restaurant industry. So what does this mean for the state? With $228 million in projected new revenue, AB 375 will generate between $15 and $19 million in sales tax revenue annually. But there's another key piece, the IID surcharge. That money goes directly into the Ignition Interlock Device Program, which funds DUI enforcement, treatment assistance, law enforcement training, public outreach, and a statewide DUI case management and tracking system. All of this happens without raising a single tax. This is policy that pays for itself while directly funding public safety. AB 375 doesn't just stabilize restaurants, it helps them grow. By creating an estimated 5 to 10% increase in revenue, this bill gives restaurants the ability to hire, retain, and expand. That means more jobs for bartenders, servers, delivery drivers, line cooks, and everyone who powers Nevada's hospitality industry. In a state where over 223,000 Nevadans depend on food and beverage work, AB 375 helps ensure those jobs remain secure, stable, and growing. We are not reinventing the wheel here. More than 30 states have already passed similar legislation. They've seen increased revenue. They've seen strong consumer support, and they've seen no significant public safety issues. If we fail to act now, Nevada risks falling behind. But if we pass AB 375, we send a clear, forward-looking message. Nevada supports innovation, Nevada supports small business, and Nevada supports policies that are smart and safe. Other states are moving forward. Shouldn't Nevada lead rather than lag behind? We already have the delivery systems. We already have the enforcement tools. What we need now is the policy. The policy that lets our restaurants compete, the policy that keeps our public safe, and the policy that keeps Nevada moving forward. Thank you.
Chair Steve Yeager, for the record, that concludes our formal presentation, and we'd be happy to answer questions at this time.
Thank you for your presentation today. We will start with Vice Chair Howdiggy.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for bringing this bill forward. I'm excited about this, and mainly because I remember having a conversation with a small restaurant in my district who never fully recovered the in-guest experience post-COVID. They said that they went from being a dining-in restaurant and some delivery to now mainly being a delivery restaurant. So and you can go in there and pop in and eat, and you just see people coming in and picking up orders to deliver nonstop. And so you mentioned in your remarks that 50% of their gross profits come from the sale of alcoholic beverages. So it makes me happy for the small restaurants in my district. I do have a couple of questions, though. In Section 2, and just out of curiosity, I want to, and maybe this is already standard practice, but I just don't know. I'm sorry, Section 1, Sub 2, no, Section 1, Sub 3A, where it says they must have a valid alcohol education card. Is that something that's going to be created by the Department of Taxation? Because I know that's who's going to be overseeing this, or does that already exist somewhere else?
It would just, Peter Saba for the record, it would just fall under the current statute of a TAM card, a serve-safe alcohol card, and I believe there's a couple other options that are allowed to be used by the state as legal alcohol training. And
may I have a follow-up, Madam Chair? Okay, and just to follow up, I've actually, I've been through the multi-step verification process in other states. I've been to states where they have this available, and it's not just for restaurants, it's for any delivery type of service like Instacart. And so this is probably more of a question for the sponsor, but I mean, is the plan to possibly extend this to other delivery services other than restaurants, like also groceries? So if you get your groceries delivered, you can also get your bottle of wine or your case of beer delivered with it, and include that same multi-step delivery verification process.
Peter Sauber for the record. This is something that is currently legal in in most jurisdictions across Nevada. SB 307 in 2021, sponsored by Senator Marilyn Dondero Loop, is what allowed retail stores and liquor stores to deliver. So they are allowed currently in the state, just not restaurants.
And it's my understanding that's direct through, like if you're ordering directly from Total Wine or the wine outlet or something, there's no delivery services. So like an Instacart or a DoorDash wouldn't be able to deliver from a store, right? It's only direct delivery by that retailer.
Peter Sauber for the record. No, if you go on Uber Eats currently in North Las Vegas, you can get delivered from Albertsons and Smith's alcohol on there, or Total Wine.
Okay, thank you for that. And thank you.
Assemblymember Cole.
Thank you for this bill. I think it's very interesting, especially the pecan punch. Thank you very much for that. So my question is in section 1, sub 1B, where we talk about the jurisdictions where the person who has ordered and where the delivery will occur and where the establishment is based. And I can tell you in my district, District 4, I have City of Las Vegas, City of North Las Vegas, and Clark County. And so I'm wondering if that's going to really limit the scope of this. And is there a thought process that we could add in here the expansion of multi-jurisdictional licensing in this area? Because I think that would be a really good place for this. Thank you.
So, since Peter Sauber for the record, since the state is currently already dealing with this, most of the local municipalities down south have adopted the grocery stores and the retail stores, just not Clark County. They're working on getting that in negotiations. It's been for 4 years that they've been working to get that in negotiations, but they are currently already having to deal with the same things. If I'm a grocery store in Summerlin and I want to get delivered to Desert Inn behind the convention center, they know that they can't, and the apps currently don't allow you to get that delivery. So when I was working on this bill, my apartment is right by the convention center, and I was trying to test all this out, and that's how I figured that out. But when I put my old home address where I grew up in North Las Vegas, lo and behold, I was able to get it from a grocery store out there. Does that answer it?
Yes, you perfectly highlighted the issue, and if you need any help from an assembly person to fix this issue, I'm here and ready.
Assemblymember Roth.
Thank you so much, Chair, and thank you so much for the presentation. As someone who does not like to leave their house, I deeply appreciate this piece of legislation. My question is actually in regards to the public safety aspect. The table is very small in the handouts, and so I just want to make sure I understand. In my experience, I can think back through caseloads and how many DUIs would not have made it to me had the person been able to have alcohol delivered to them instead of wanting to leave their house from a house party or whatever it is to go get more alcohol. So can you dig into that data just a little bit more?
Peter Sauber for the record, I actually tried, but I will try even harder to find that. That was a very important thing that I wanted to see here. I do wonder if there is data about who, out of the people who get picked on to go leave the party to go get from the grocery store, and then that's how they end up getting a DUI or dying. I think that's very important data to find and something we could stop through this bill, and I will work on it.
And Chair, if I could, I just wanted to add Steve Yeager for the record. I mean, I think I think this is a good bill regardless, right? I mean, we live in a world of convenience, and we're used to, you know, overnight from Amazon, 2 days from Amazon, and obviously public safety is important, but I think the intent here is, you know, people are at home and they're drinking, whether by themselves or at a party, and then they're faced with this choice if they run out, and they're impaired when they're making that choice. And I think I've seen cases when I was a public defender, I know you've seen them, where you think, this is probably not someone that would have made that choice if they had another option. And so I think it's hard to know, like, how many people would make that choice. But it does seem to me, I just think anecdotally, if you're at home and you're drinking and you're ordering from your favorite restaurant, you know, for me, that would maybe be like Tacotarian, or I guess Esther's Kitchen doesn't deliver. We learned that in this committee. But, you know, to be able to like tack on a cocktail or wine, I think, you know, that's going to drive people's behavior versus getting in the car, driving there, or as Mr. Saba said, if you're at a party with a handful of folks, somebody's the poor person who's going to have to drive down to get more. And so I don't know if we can quantify that, but I think just the human nature, like, we know how people think and act, and we want to make this as simple as possible for them when they're in an impaired frame of mind, where they can just make a phone call, go on the app, and have it delivered, and hopefully prevent some of this. But we'll continue to try to look for that data. I'm sure that it will drive behavior in that way.
Assemblymember O'Neill.
Thank you, Chair. If I understand, we're at a bar, if I order a drink and I'm inebriated, the bartender can cut me off even before he mixes the drink or pulls the draft for me. On this situation where I'm at home, I'm over 21, so that's not the question. But the delivery person comes to me, they're supposed to verify or validate that I am not inebriated to such a position, and they could hold back the drink from me. Is that correct? And depending a yes or no, I'd have a follow-up, Chair.
Peter Sauber for the record. Yes, that is correct, but that is something that Uber and DoorDash do through their company policy just for liability issues and stuff. But yes, they would refuse to hand over the alcohol to you if you aren't coherent enough.
So the drink is still paid for, correct? But I don't get it. So what does the driver do with it? And this may be a subsequent bill.
Peter Sauber for the record. I actually looked into this, and the driver is paid back by the delivery company for their gas to go back and give it to the restaurant, or currently the grocery store and liquor store. And you being the customer that ordered it, you pay a $25 fee that would cover that person's gas to go back, the taxes and the fees that come out of something like this, and the restaurant also gets that money back through that charge.
Just for clarification, so I understand you deny me. The driver takes it back to the restaurant, and then they just throw it down the sink or something, correct?
Peter Sauber for the...
Yeah, and there are fees attached to it then for that refusal. Okay.
Peter Sauber for the record, yes, it's the $25 fee, and just like if they had to do it, you being a customer in the restaurant there, you found a hair in your food or didn't like it or something, they would take it back, throw it out, or maybe some line cook is eating it or drinking it.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Assemblymember Carter.
Thank you. Yeah, so in section 1, 3A, are you talking about simply a TAM card, or is there a different type of training program envisioned, and would it be platform specific, meaning could the platforms be allowed to develop their own training programs?
Peter Sauber for the record. I will be honest here, currently how it's written, if it's passed, it follows the certain statute that bartenders currently have to go through, which is the TAM card or the Serve Safe Alcohol card. But being honest here, we are looking at certain amendments where in other states, they allow the delivery apps to do their own alcohol training through the app and not have to go through the state.
Committee members, are there any additional questions? I don't see any. I have a quick question, probably more for a clarification. So as far as the training now, I understand the TAM card, but is there an extra training that comes into play because you're delivering the alcohol to people's homes, correct? So training as far as, and I've never had a TAM card, so maybe it's already part of the training, such as making sure that you recognize that someone probably is a little too intoxicated to keep drinking and things like that.
Peter Sauber for the record. I haven't gotten my TAM card renewed since college. And so currently I don't know, but I do know that the Uber and delivery apps, they don't just take the TAM card or the Serve Safe alcohol card just as that. They also make you go through their company policy if you want to be a driver that delivers alcohol. So I think that's where that portion will be covered on how to drive with it, in states that allow it to be a closed container if the seal is open, if seal is on, how to recognize if someone is inebriated or make sure that the photo on the ID is that person there. Yeah.
Thank you. I just want to make sure the policy comes with the training, if that makes sense. Assemblymember Monroe Moreno.
Thank you, Chair. So your answer so each platform will be able to develop their own training program, so there'll be no consistency across the board. The only thing that will be consistent is the TAM card and the county that the TAM card is issued. But as far as anything else, each platform is going to make up their own training program?
Peter Sauber for the record, these platforms already have made these trainings, and I'm sure they all kind of follow the same guideline because it's more about saving the company's line. If the driver was to hand it off to someone who ends up throwing up in their sleep, that major lawsuit could cost millions for the Uber or the delivery app. So I'm sure that they probably go into a little bit more stricter than what we do here. But they do have to go through both of those, the state alcohol training and the company's training.
Follow up? So you're sure, but you don't have any evidence to present to us today that there's a consistent platform training program?
Peter Sauber for the record, I haven't looked into it. That it is an assumption, but I will look into it and send it over to you. What I can say is there has been no big form of compliance or miscompliance in 30 states that currently have it legal to the point where there's some motivation to repeal this kind of law. They've all been actually extending it or making it permanent in the past 5 years.
Committee members, any additional questions? Assemblymember Torres Fawcett.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you for the presentation. I was definitely interested to hear about some of the information that pertain to the cocktails on the go. My question is about making the pecan punch the state drink. Do we have, I was trying to think right now of any other state recognition for the Basque community. Do you know if we have any other state symbol that really recognizes the Basque community and our Basque heritage here in the state of Nevada?
I do not know that for sure, but I could phone a friend that could tell me. If you hold just a second. JB, is there any state recognition of any of the Basque heritage things?
I don't think so. It's not really our way, actually.
So for the record, Bert Gurr, and for the record, that's JB Lukenberry, who owns JT's Basque Corner in Gardnerville. And so the answer appears to be no.
Thank you, because obviously there's a lot of conversation about whether or not it's appropriate for the pecan punch, or I've heard conversations in the past about the yard drinks that they drink on the Las Vegas Strip, or who gets to be the state drink here in the state of Nevada. But I do think, you know, this is a way for us to honor that Basque heritage in a way that we have not yet done here in the state of Nevada. And I really appreciate the cultural preservation that we have done. I know the University of Nevada, Go Pack, has done quite a bit to preserve that culture with a Basque Studies program. But I think that this is a way for us to do it as a state and to also spread that information to ensure that the next generation of Nevadans continues to learn about the impact of culture. You know, growing up in Vegas, I'd never heard of the Basque community at all until I went to UNR. And so I think it's a great way for us to change that.
For the record, Bert Gurr, I appreciate that. And on your desks or in your places, you should have had a complete breakdown by the professor of Basque Studies about the pecan punch. I forgot to mention that. So you can see how it progressed through the process. I also want to say that it's been an honor to present this bill. I was stunned when the speaker asked if he could roll my bill into his bill. And it's truly a cooperative way to get this done. It is not, the pecan punch is not frivolous. Don't ever take it that way. This is to honor their heritage and what they've done for us in the state. Thank you.
Assemblymember Urick.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you all for the presentation on what I believe is a pretty exciting bill. But following up on my colleague's question that she just asked, other than making Nevada a little bit more spirited, no pun intended, are there any other elements of that, right? Because there's going to be competitions for drinks, and as you've already highlighted, but are there any campaigns or any other educational or tourism thoughts of how we can incorporate if this were to pass in to ensure that it's achieving its intended purpose of kind of highlighting and celebrating the Nevada's Basque culture?
For the record, Bert Gurr, no, but it's a great idea. Assemblyman Urick, or Member Urick, I think that would be a great start. And I know that the tourism folks have used a lot of it in Elko County, Humboldt County, and probably here in Washoe and Carson. But yeah, it'd be a great start. Thank you.
Committee members, any additional questions? I don't see any. Thank you again for bringing this bill. Before I saw your PowerPoint today, I was like, well, if I order a dirty martini, how is that going to come, right? How is that going to be delivered? So I appreciate the pictures and the bags. Thank you. And with that, we will move to support testimony of Assembly Bill 375. Is there anyone in Carson City that wishes to testify in support? Please remember to state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes each.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. For the record, Trey Abney, T-R-A-Y-A-B-N-E-Y, here today representing the hardworking job creators of NFIB Nevada, small business owners. I want to thank my friends, the Speaker and Assemblymember Gurr, for bringing this bill, and thank Mr. Saba for all his hard work, although I wish Mr. Saba would have invited me to all this research that he did for this bill, but I'll talk to him about that later. This is a lifeline to the restaurant industry, most of which are very small businesses. You all know the slim profit margins that these folks operate on, so anything we can do to level the playing field for them, we greatly appreciate. Mr. Saba went through all the details of that. I don't need to outline any further. Separately, on the pecan punch piece, so I don't get in any trouble. I'm not representing any client on this piece, but I'll tell you, a lifetime ago, in a different life, different job, my first time in Nevada was not Las Vegas, it was not Reno, it was pulling into West Wendover and then Elko and having my first pecan at the Star in Elko, Nevada. And I don't want to say it was life-changing, that's a little dramatic, but we appreciate, we think it's very important, certainly, to celebrate the heritage of that drink. And thank you, Madam Chair, for your time.
Chair Marzola, members of the committee, my name is John Abel, representing the LVPPA and a longtime 18-year law enforcement officer who's made my fair share of DUI arrests. I believe this bill will reduce a DUI arrest and probably DUI deaths. For that reason, we support it. Thank you.
For the record, my name is Mark Maynard, M-A-Y-N-A-R-D.
I'm a professor at Truckee Meadows Community College, but here today as a civilian. I am the director of the documentary film Pecanland, The Quest for the Perfect Pecan Punch, and I'm here to speak in support of Section 5 of AB 375. The pecan punch is more than a drink. It's a quest for those in Nevada or those who come to Nevada from far and wide to enjoy our high desert, mountains, waters, ghost towns, and bustling cities. It's a rite of passage. Anyone who's had a pecan remembers their first, where they were, and who they were with. It's generations of Elko residents who've had Scotty Yagoa, the owner of the Star, buy them their first pecan at the same place their parents and siblings had theirs. It's a ritual. The pecan is a celebration of friendship, of good food, and of the blending of cultures. Basque and American, Italian and French, Spanish and Filipino, and uniquely Nevadan. Pecans are rarely, if ever, sipped alone and never in silence. They're part of gatherings that happen across the state every day at long communal tables and in century-old bars. They encourage the telling of stories and help us all find common values. The pecan is a creation of the American West. It would not exist without the Basques who came here seeking a better life, but it does not belong to them alone. Because generations of Basques have literally invited Nevadans into their homes for hearty meals, kinship, and conversation, the pecan has come to belong to all Nevadans, a battle-born tradition that deserves official recognition. I'm honored to have been able to learn so much about this drink and what it represents for this state. It's been my pleasure to share that story through film across the country and around the world. Our film played in Texas, Louisiana, France, and Albania, and it found a universal connection in all those places to their own cultures, and all those who saw it have expressed a desire to come to Nevada and try one for themselves. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members of the committee, my name is Tom Clark. That's T-O-M-C-L-A-R-K. I'm here on behalf of the Reno Sparks Chamber of Commerce, very much in support of the cocktails on the go. I think that we believe that the restaurants having the ability to do so would definitely be a boost. You can get your packaged liquor and stuff delivered to your house. There's age verification. There are ways of doing that. We can see the same thing happening with the cocktails on the go. However, as a native Nevadan, you cannot enjoy a pecan punch that's been delivered to you by DoorDash. You must go to the JT or the Star or the Velvet somewhere and enjoy not just the cocktail, but the wonderful atmosphere and culture that the Basque people bring. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you for your testimony. I may be the only one in this room that has not gone to JT. I'm going to solve that problem. Is there anyone else in Carson City wishing to testify in support? We will move to Las Vegas. Is there anyone in Las Vegas wishing to testify in support to Assembly Bill 375? I don't see anyone walking up. Broadcast, is there anyone on the line?
Testify in support for Assembly Bill 375. Please press star 9 to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last 3 digits 213, you are unmuted and you may begin.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Nick McMillan, and I am the co-CEO of the Golden Steer Steakhouse in Las Vegas. I fully support AB 375 because it gives restaurants like mine and across the state the flexibility to meet the customer demand and really to acknowledge the permanent shift that has happened in the restaurant business after COVID. Of course, during COVID, virtually all restaurant business early on was delivery. But we are, of course, a couple years past that, and the shift has remained permanent. So according to the National Restaurant Association, the amount of transactions for delivery have more than doubled and stayed doubled since pre-COVID. And of course, a big part of dining is responsible alcohol enjoyment as well. And so this is And on the business side, it is, of course, an integral part of the way that restaurants make money. And so combining the ability to sell and provide alcohol cocktails to go alongside meals is a tremendous, tremendous lift for businesses like myself and all across the state. And with that, I fully support it. Thank you.
Thank you. Broadcast, is there anyone else on the line?
If you have just joined and would like to testify in support of Assembly Bill 375, please press star 9 to take your place in the queue. Chair, we have no callers choosing to testify in support at this time.
Thank you. We will move to testimony in opposition of Assembly Bill 375. Is there anyone here in Carson City? Please remember to state and spell your name.
Thank you, Chair Marzola, committee members, Misty Grimmer, Grimmer, representing the Nevada Resort Association. First off, I think I'm going to need to figure out how to get a couple pecans delivered to the lobbyist room since I'm up here opposing the speaker's bill. I definitely appreciate the speaker being open to continue. We have had some discussions with the speaker and Mr. Saba, and appreciate his openness to continue those conversations and work on some amendments. Nevada is different from other states in that we do have the resort corridors in the south and the north, and so that does add an element into this conversation that's quite a bit different from a lot of other states. We don't have an issue with people being able to order a pitcher of margaritas along with their tacos when they're sitting at home having dinner. That's really not our fight. What our concerns are that we do still want to keep working with the speaker and the sponsor on, though, are figuring out a way to have a prohibition for deliveries to the resorts, and also making sure that the local governments are ultimately the ones who still have control over this issue. So thank you very much. Sorry, Mr. Speaker.
Hello, members of the committee, Chair Marzola. My name is Ashley Kennedy, representing Clark County. I did just want to say that we are in opposition to the bill as written. There is one amendment that will add in Clark County's ability to opt out of it, which we are appreciative, but we're still working through some of the other amendments, as the Resort Association also mentioned. And then I did just want to clarify that currently in unincorporated Clark County, we do allow liquor delivery from grocery stores, and we are currently in the process of an ordinance to allow liquor delivery from liquor stores and also delivery by a third-party app. So that those conversations or that work is still ongoing in unincorporated Clark County, but opposed to the bill as written, still working with all the bill proponents on further amendments, and appreciate the time. Thank you.
Is there anyone else in Carson City wishing to testify in opposition? I don't see anyone walking up. Is there anyone in Las Vegas wishing to testify in opposition to Assembly Bill 375? No one is coming up. Broadcast, is there anyone on the line?
To testify in opposition to Assembly Bill 375, please press star 9 to take your place in the queue. Chair, we have no callers choosing to testify in opposition.
Thank you. We'll move to testimony in neutral. Is there anyone here in Carson City? Please remember to state and spell your name for the record.
Good afternoon, Brian Wachter, B-R-Y-A-N-W-A-C-H-T-E-R, Senior Vice President of the Retail Association of Nevada. We are neutral, I guess, on most of the bill. Section 5 is a really good idea. We are very concerned about how this is going to play into the current rules that we already have in place. Mr. Saba brought up SB 307 from 2021. We are concerned that if we allow this process to go through the same one, it's going to be 4 or 5 years again before our restaurants have the ability to do this. And that's if the local governments are nice enough to opt in. And so we want to be able to continue that conversation with the speaker and figure out how we can provide this relief to Nevadans tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Is there anyone else wishing to testify in neutral? Is there anyone in Las Vegas wishing to testify in neutral to Assembly Bill 375? Broadcast, is there anyone on the line?
To testify in neutral to Assembly Bill 375, please press star 9 to take your place in the queue.
Pardon me, may I testify in support? I apologize.
Yes, absolutely. We will move back to support testimony. Please remember to state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes.
CYRUSHOJJATY. Now that I heard the Resort Association opposed it, I'm supporting it. So thank you. Yield.
Thank you for your support testimony. We will now move back to neutral testimony. Broadcast, is there anyone on the line?
Chair, we have no more callers to testify in neutral at this time.
Thank you. Speaker Yeager or Assemblymember Gurr, would you like to give any final remarks?
Steve Yeager for the record. Thank you, Chair, for giving us the time. And I want to thank Assemblymember Gurr for the pecan punch portion of the bill, and thank Mr. Saba from the Restaurant Association. You know, we still have a little bit of work to do on this bill. I think some of the concerns you heard were obviously legitimate concerns. Clark County has been through this process, so we're going to try to work with them, and we hope to have something here in the very near future to bring back in front of this committee. But until then, I wish you a very happy Basque Heritage Day, as well as a National Cocktail Day. And, you know, there are pecan punches available right across the street, basically. So make sure, if you haven't had one, you get over there and try it. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Speaker. I will now close the hearing on Assembly Bill 375. I will now open the hearing on Assembly Bill 430. This measure exempts persons engaged in the provision of payroll processing services from provisions governing money transmission. Assemblymember Flanagan, welcome. You can begin when you're ready.
Thank you, Chair Marzola and members of the committee. For the record, I am Tanya Flanagan, representing Assembly District 7. I am the sponsor of Assembly Bill 430, which exempts persons engaged in the provision of payroll processing services from provisions governing money transmission. Payroll processing services handles tasks like calculating wages, managing tax withholdings, and making payments to employees and taxing authorities. They are often not considered money transmitters due to the specific nature of their operations and the reduced risk of harm to consumers. Payroll processing involves a specific regulated context, such as employer-employee relationship, and the funds are used for legitimate purposes, including wages and taxes. In 2023, the legislature passed and the governor signed AB 21, which was the Money Transmission Modernization Act. Generally, a money transmitter is a person or entity that receives funds from one party for the purpose of sending them to another party. The Act standardized the regulation of companies subject to money transmission laws and included providing payroll processing services within the definition of money transmission. I represent District 7, and many areas of the state like mine are home to small businesses. This would support about 1,200 businesses that basically have about 20 employees or less. So when this was presented to me by my co-presenter today, Michael Hillerby, who's the Director of Legislative Affairs for Kemper-Kroll, I thought it was a good way to bring forward some legislation that would do good for small businesses. So I'm pleased to have him here today with me, and I'm going to turn the mic over to him now. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Marzola, members of the committee. Michael Hillerby with Kemper-Kroll on behalf of the Independent Payroll Providers Association. I'm sure you'd much rather still be talking about pecans rather than payroll, but here we are, and I want to thank the Assembly member and her co-sponsors for getting us to the starting blocks with this bill. As you've heard, based on the model money transmitters law that was passed last session by the legislature, Nevada became one of the 27 states that have so far passed some or all of the model law which was created by the Conference of State Banking Supervisors. Based on the latest information we have, approximately half of those states have either gone back and amended out payroll provision, or once the industry got involved, excluded payroll provision from when the act was passed. There are another 5 states in process now. 2 have completed both houses, with the best information I have, and on their way to the governor. 3 others are in process, like Nevada, and we expect to see perhaps more this year. Again, with the passage of the Model Act, it was the first time that payroll providers were included in the definition of money transmitters. The industry feels very strongly that was not appropriate. We have with us on Zoom Robin Imbrogno, who is a member of the Payroll Providers Group and a volunteer, part of the Government Affairs Committee, to talk a little bit more about specifically how payroll processors are already regulated and the oversight that they have. And we'll let her go ahead if she's ready on Zoom.
Thank you. Robin Imbrogno for TPG and IPPA. And first, I would like to thank Assemblymember Flanagan for having us here today and being our co-sponsor on this. And I am sure that you would much rather that we're here talking about pecans and alcohol, but here we are talking about payroll. I am here on behalf of TPG, the payroll group, and the Independent Payrolls Providers Association. Collectively, we represent over 300 payroll processors in the United States. Our members consist of small businesses around the country, including here in Nevada. We have, as was shared, around 1,200 firms in the industry code: accounting, tax preparation, bookkeeping, and payroll services. Since bookkeepers and accountants also provide payroll services, it's likely that that number is even higher. Approximately 1,000 of those have less than 20 employees, which means that about 90% of them are small businesses, as many of them are in Nevada. Small payroll companies, most of whom work hand in glove with the CPA community, provide essential services to Nevada businesses. In addition to payroll processing and tax filing, as many people know, payroll processors in general provide a function that has much of a advising component as it does to payroll processing. We work with small businesses to make sure that they understand wage and hour laws, evolving sick leave laws, FMLA laws, and much, much more. It was our community during COVID, in the small processing community, that worked with those business owners during the weekends and holidays to make sure that they understood things like the Payroll Protection Program, how to apply for PPP loans, how to use FUTA credits for sick leave, and how to make those adjustments to their payroll taxes to keep their doors open. We explained how to make sure that the PP loans could be repaid using the reports that we had, the restaurant revitalization funding, the Families First Corona Response Act, sick leave pay, and even the shuttered venues grants that were provided. The payroll providing community, those small payroll companies, were still around when the large national firms would close their doors at 5 p.m. If AB 430 stays enacted as it currently is, small payroll providers can't continue to work in Nevada. It's just cost prohibitive for that community to meet the requirements of the bill as it currently stands. We have to comply with many laws as they currently, and regulations as they currently exist in our community, just to be continue working with our banking partners as we currently do. And I want to share with you some of the things that we have to do for our banks to stay in compliance. So I'll share with you what I have to do. So our bank right now requires us to provide a list on a quarterly basis under Know Your Customer, KYC. So on a quarterly basis, we have to provide our bank with a list of all of our clients and their NAICS numbers, which is basically sharing what industry that they're in. So every quarter we have to do that. In addition, we have to undergo an audit for the National Automated Clearinghouse Association. This again goes to our bank. That audit provided by an outside auditing firm looks at all of our banking files to make sure that we're in compliance with NACHA. And that means that we have to show that we've not done anything outside of what NACHA requires us to do with a banking file, that there's been no reversals that are out of compliance, that we've stayed in line with everything that NACHA says that we need to do. Our bank also requires that we go through an annual SOC audit. A SOC audit for a company our size can go anywhere from $25,000 to $50,000 a year. A SOC audit is an audit of our system and organizational controls, which is a framework that's created by the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants. It's basically looking at the financial and internal controls of an organization, which makes sure that we care properly for other people's money. Every year, that audit gets turned into our financial institution to make sure that there are no flags and that we're caring for other people's money appropriately. In addition, any owner of a business like ours, myself included, has to provide a personal financial statement. They want to know where all of my money is or isn't, and they make sure that they know exactly where every penny is, so that they understand that every dollar is, and they can ensure that we haven't done anything unscrupulous with our own personal finances. Anyone new going into an industry like ours, the barrier of entry, quite frankly, is fairly significant because they have to keep funds on deposit with banks to ensure that they've covered any risk should a company go, client that we may work with, should they go out of business and not be able to fund a deposit. Finally, we have to do what's called an OFAC review on our clients on a quarterly basis. We have to make sure through the Office of Foreign Assets and Control for money laundering, that's an OFAC review, that people are not laundering money through a payroll account, that they are legitimate, and we have to actually make sure that they're only working in certain industries. In addition, we do annual credit checks on our clients, and all of those are reviewed by the bank as well. We have to set credit limits for them, and the banks review those credit limits as well. They look at those twice a year. They come to our offices, they review our offices, and ensure that our brick and mortar is as good as the clients that we serve. Last but not least, and the CPA community wrote to you as well about this, they look at, or the IRS also confirms that the 8655, which is a document that all of our clients have to sign, the 8655 allows us to work with a client on behalf of the IRS. That document basically shares that the electronic federal tax payment system, which is how we send federal tax payments on behalf of any client, it notifies the client that at any time they can log into the IRS system and look at any tax payments that are made on behalf of the client, and that they should log in and check their federal tax payments that are being made, that those tax payments are made on behalf of the client, that they can check and look, if you will, behind us, and that they are encouraged to do so. We have to notify clients on a quarterly basis that they can check behind us. We do that. The bank also checks that we do that. The IRS also makes sure that all clients, if an address change is made, that the client is notified of any address change that's made. So again, that nothing can be done that is unscrupulous on behalf of the client. So these are all checks and balances that have been put in place to protect clients and to protect the client's employees, to ensure that everyone is well protected. So we protect our clients the bank makes sure that we are also being protected and that funds are being protected. But this bill, which has been supported by so many other states, the reversal of this bill, quite frankly, which has been supported in so many other states, will allow us and your CPA community as well to continue to provide both education and high-touch services to these small businesses and allow us to do the jobs that we have done for so many years and not limit the valuable service that we provide to just a few national firms within your state. So we appreciate your consideration and support of this important bill, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you so much. I just want to really quickly, as we've heard a lot on this, and I hope that it's been an extensive amount of information that helps you get a clear picture on where we're going with AB 430. But really quickly, to address the bill, for the record, I'm Tanya Flanagan, Assembly Member for District 7. There's no paddle in this room. There's a paddle in the other room. Sections of the bill. There's only a couple of sections to point out. So Section 1 of this bill removes payroll processing services from the definition of money transmission. And Section 2 of the bill exempts a person engaged solely in payroll processing services from the provisions governing money transmission. Thereby, a person is not required to obtain a license from the Commissioner of Financial Institutions to engage in payroll processing services. And lastly, Section 3 of the bill repeals provisions setting forth certain duties of persons engaged in providing payroll processing services. I think we are safe to stand for questions. So with that, we'll stand for questions if you have any. Thank you.
Thank you for your bill today, Assembly Member. Is it Imbrano? I don't want to mispronounce your Imbrano. Did I say it correctly? Okay.
Thank you.
So I'm going to use this as a teaching moment. Nevadans are very proud people. We have a huge pride in our state. So it's pronounced Nevada and not Nevada. So I just wanted to tell you so that you knew, so next time you say it, you can say it correctly so my committee members are not cringing.
Thank you.
So with that, committee members, of course, committee members, are there any questions? Assemblymember Miller.
Thank you so much, Chair. And I really appreciate having the visit and explanation of this bill beforehand. And I understand this is to undo some unintended consequences from the prior session. With that, now that I'm reading the bill language, I still have some concerns because my understanding of that this who should not be captured or included would be those how do I say, human resources groups or services that, again, they were captured in because it included basically anyone transmitting money. And maybe you can clarify this for me, or legal, is that when I go through the bill, Section 1 talks about receiving money. Section 2 talks about similar transfers of money, money transmission for goods and services, entities that have directly incurred, securities, brokers, dealers under federal law. I identified those terms because it's my understanding that with human resources, there is deductions and transmission of money. Often those occur for maybe charitable donations, certain additional insurances an individual may pay for, and even garnished wages. And knowing that it says securities and broker dealers, knowing that it says goods and services, which again, insurance could also fall under that. I just want to make sure that we don't have another unintended consequence that somehow, because of the transmission of money is occurring for those types of activities, that they can still be carved out as intended by this bill.
Thank you, Chairman Marzullo, to the Assembly Member Miller. Michael Hillerby.
You can go direct.
Thank you. Michael Hillerby on behalf of the Independent Payroll Providers Association. So thank you for the question. So all deductions that would come as a part of that payroll are sort of covered by that. So regardless of what it was, if you had elected to do nonprofit, if there was a garnishment, if you had supplemental insurance, health insurance, life insurance, things that various firms might offer are all a part of that payroll transaction. And hopefully what Robin went through with some of the other oversight and regulation they have sort of explains why we're asking to be added to that long list of functions and entities in Section 2 that are exempted from the provision of the law because there is otherwise regulation. So that would separate payroll providers, as they have always been, from traditional company handling cash to send it to a family member, stored value cards. We're seeing a lot of changes and new entrants in the financial technology world and cryptocurrency and other kinds of things. So again, for those companies that are taking cash or offering stored value cards or other things directly to consumer would still be covered. And if you're a payroll processing company doing anything else, you would still need to be licensed. But if you're solely in the business of providing that payroll service, you would not be licensed under the Model Act for money transmission.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Chair.
Committee members, any additional questions? I don't see any. I just have a quick one. Did you state, Mr. Hillerby, in your presentation that there are other states that have such legislation that does not include payroll? We just happen to be the one that did last session.
So thank you, Chair Michael Hillerby. So 27, according to the latest information from the Conference of State Banking Supervisors, 27 states have passed some or all, some version or all of the Model Act. So that started in 2022. Nevada passed the Model Act in its entirety in 23. The payroll industry was not aware that they were being considered for inclusion as larger parts of the industry worked on the Model Act. Once they found that out, they went back to the Conference of State Banking Supervisors, were told they were free to go back and seek to amend themselves out of the state laws. So that's happened in one of two ways. They've either worked with states in the process of adopting the Model Act and payroll was excluded, or as we're doing here in Nevada, seeking to amend it out after the passage of the act. Approximately half the states have done one version of that or another, and there are, as I said, 5 states that we're aware of so far that legislation is progressing in this year.
Great, thank you for that answer. I don't see any additional questions. We will move for testimony and support to Assembly Bill 430. Is there anyone here is there anyone in Carson City wishing to testify in support?
Good afternoon, Chair Marzola, members of the committee. For the record, my name is Nick Schneider, Director of Government Affairs for the Vegas Chamber. We're here in support today of AB 430 and believe that this will benefit small business in the payroll processing industry. This specific sector of the broader money transmission industry already has a large number of checks and balances, and we believe that the implementation of this exemption would not lead to any negative externalities from these businesses or to the many small businesses that rely on payroll processing services to comply with payroll tax or other laws. And we ask for your support of this bill. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members of the committee, my name is Tom Clark. I'm here on behalf of the Nevada Society of CPAs. You should see, hopefully you can see an exhibit from, it's a letter from Anna Durst, who is the CEO of the Nevada Society, in support of this particular piece of legislation. I won't hit on all of the testimony that's already been provided. The experts did that for us, and so I simply say, on behalf of the Nevada Society of CPAs, we're very much in support. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in Carson City wishing to testify in support? Don't see any. Is there anyone in Las Vegas wishing to testify in support to Assembly Bill 430? Broadcast, is there anyone on the line?
Chair, the public lines are open and working, but we have no callers to testify in support at this time.
Thank you. We will move to testimony in opposition. Is there anyone here in Carson City wishing to testify in opposition? I don't see anyone walking up. Is there anyone in Las Vegas wishing to testify in opposition to Assembly Bill 430? I don't see anyone. Broadcast, is there anyone on the line?
To testify in opposition to Assembly Bill 430, please press *9 to take your place in the queue. Chair, we have no callers choosing to testify in opposition at this time.
Thank you. We will move to neutral testimony. Is there anyone here in Carson City wishing to testify in neutral? Don't see anyone. Is there anyone in Las Vegas wishing to testify in neutral? No one is walking up. Broadcast, is there anyone on the line?
To testify in neutral to Assembly Bill 430, please press star 9 to take your place in the queue. Chair, we have no callers choosing to testify in neutral.
Thank you. Assembly member, would you like to give any final remarks? Okay, yeah, of course.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Again, Tanya Flanagan for the record. I just want to very quickly thank the committee for hearing the bill, and on the record, thank the co-sponsors, Assembly members Tracy Brown May, Ruben De Silva, and Yui Wynn. Thank you for your time and consideration of this bill.
Thank you for being with us this afternoon. I will now close the hearing on Assembly Bill 430. 1 minute recess.
The committee will now come back to order. I will now open the hearing on Assembly Bill 142. Chair Marzola, when you're ready, please begin.
Thank you, Vice Chair Howdiggy and members of the committee. I'm Elaine Marzola, representing Assembly District 21 in Clark County. Today, I will be presenting Assembly Bill 142, which revises provisions relating to industrial insurance. I have as my co-presenter here with me, Rick McCann, to present this measure. I will briefly set the stage and provide a little bit of an overview, and then I will turn things over to Mr. McCann. First responders are regularly exposed to life-threatening situations, traumatic events, and high-stress environments. The nature of their jobs, which often involve witnessing a violent event and making life and death decisions, places a significant burden on them. For example, a law enforcement officer is routinely exposed to scenes of violence, accidents, and critical health emergencies, all of which can take a toll on their mental health. Civilian employees in law enforcement agencies provide a crucial operational and administrative support, including investigating crime scenes and managing other high-stress responsibilities that expose them to traumatic experiences. However, under current law, crime scene investigators may not qualify for the same protections as sworn officers, despite facing similar psychological and emotional burdens. Assembly Bill 142 seeks to broaden the classification of these first responders, ensuring crime scene investigators, CSI, within law enforcement agencies are eligible for industrial insurance benefits for stress-related claims incurred during their employment. This measure provides equitable coverage and support to all individuals who contribute to public safety, acknowledging the diverse roles that collectively maintain community well-being. And before I pass it to Mr. McCann, I do want to say that Vice Chair Howdiggy had a bill last session, and this is expanding her bill. So thank you for that bill, Vice Chair. And now, with your permission, if I could please pass it to Mr. McCann.
No.
Good afternoon, Madam Vice Chair, members of the committee and staff. For the record, my name is Rick McCann, M-C-C-A-N-N, and I'm here today representing the Nevada Association of Public Safety Officers and the Nevada Law Enforcement Coalition, as well as the Las Vegas Metro Police Protective Association for Civilian Employees. I'm here today to help present AB 142. After what you just heard the Assemblywoman, the chair, say, I probably should just say ditto, but I get paid by the word, so. In the 2023 legislative session, Vice Chair Howdegee, as you just heard, brought an exceptional bill. It was AB 410 at that time that allowed gradual mental stimulus to be considered an injury or disease caused by stress and permitted it to arise out of and in the course of employment for first responders, who were defined as firefighters, police officers, emergency dispatchers or call takers employed by a law enforcement agency or public safety agency, or EMTs or paramedics employed by a public safety agency. That bill passed unanimously in both houses and was signed by the governor. This bill, AB 142, merely seeks to add civilian employees of a law enforcement agency whose primary duties involve responding to and investigating crime scenes. Yep, crime scene investigators or analysts. We're here, by the way, just for the record. I was asked by the committee manager to make sure that everybody is working off of amendment number 2. I think amendment went bye-bye. So we're just working on amendment number 2. Hopefully we're on the same page. And real quickly, you'll see that it simply indicates that we're going to add a civilian employee of a law enforcement agency, and this is the most important words. These are the most important words, whose primary duties involve responding to and investigating crime scenes. That's what we're dealing with. The rest of it is pretty much conforming in terms of the lettering and things of that nature. CSIs see some of the worst things that happen in humanity, including fatal vehicle accidents, child abuse cases, elder abuse cases, animal abuse cases, sexual assaults, victims of shootings and suicides, all similar to other first responders. But the CSI may work crime scenes for many hours, sometimes days, with the deceased. This time includes attending the autopsies and collecting evidence from the decedent. I'm informed that in calendar year 2024, CSIs of the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department responded to 841 dead body calls, to include traffic fatalities, homicides, suicides, autopsies, drug overdoses, and suspicious deaths. Each supervisor responded to an average of 37 dead body calls. The average CSI on day shift responded to 64 autopsies or dead body calls, and the average senior CSI not on day shift responded to 38 of those dead body calls just last year. This doesn't include the societal mayhem they witness daily for folks who remain living, to include photographing their injuries, collecting evidence from hospitals and crime scenes. The continued exposure to these difficult scenes throughout their careers can have seriously harmful effects on their professional and personal lives. In short, AB 410 was a great bill in 2023 that protects our first responders with stress-related claims. This bill, AB 142, is also a great bill in 2025 that will similarly protect crime scene investigators who are vital in the criminal investigatory process and who experience the same and oftentimes more death and destruction than our other first responders. Respectfully, there are a few people in this building other than police officers, firefighters, and EMTs who can tell you, who can do what they do, see what they see, hear what they hear, smell what they smell, touch what they touch. These CSIs are heroes, and they need to be protected as such. For these reasons, we ask that you support AB 142. Thank you for the privilege of your time.
Vice Chair Elaine Marzola, for the record, we are ready for questions.
Okay, before I go to Assemblymember Urick for our first question, I just want to say thank you so much for bringing this bill. I agree, Assembly Bill 410 was a great bill, but I'm happy to see that we're able to expand it and that you're here presenting this bill, so thank you. I know from the conversations I had with our first responders during the 2023 session and them describing what they're exposed to, and it's repeated exposure to dead bodies, shootings, assault, and so we need to make sure that we're taking care of the people who take care of us. So with that, I'm going to go to Assemblymember Urick.
Thank you, Vice Chair, and thank you both for what I believe to be probably one of the most impactful bills that I've heard so far this session. Many members know I'm a prior law enforcement officer. I've responded to hundreds and hundreds of scenes that would shock the conscience of people that have to deal with those. And it isn't until recently through bills like the Majority Leader's Bill 410 from last session that we are now seeing industrial insurance start to cover some of these very real issues that our folks that work in law enforcement do. And I can tell you that as a first responder police officer, it was challenging to walk into a lot of those scenes and see what you had to see and what you had to deal with. But it was easy to just focus on task and push through, isolate the scene, and then let the folks in the Criminalistics Bureau come in and do the crime scene investigation. And it wasn't until later in my career when I became the Criminalistics Bureau commander and had to go back into the scene under that role and recognized how important that this bill is. These folks, while I had to go in and spend maybe a minute or two, clear the scene and see something horrible, these folks have to go back in for hours and get up close and intimate and personal with horrible sights and smells that I am so glad to see this bill cover now. And so I guess my question after saying that long diatribe is, would you consider amendment number 3 and adding me to this bill?
Ely Marzola, for the record, yes, of course. Thank you for wanting to be part of it and also for your service.
Rick McCann, for the record, we'll have to talk about it.
Members, any other questions? Assemblymember Cole.
So my question, and thank you, Chair and Vice Chair. So my question is, this one is for civilian employees. Are all of the employees directly, like, are they already covered, such as county coroner investigators, Metro actual employees, they're already covered under this, or no?
Rick McCann, for the record, thank you for the question, Assemblywoman member, whatever we're doing. No, they're not all covered. What you see here in front of you are is the definition of a first responder. So if they salaried or volunteer firefighter, police officer, emergency dispatcher, or call taker who is employed by a law enforcement agency, which we've defined herein, or other public safety agency in this state. Now we wish to add, of course, the CSIs. And then in number 5, it has an emergency medical technician or paramedic who is employed by a public safety agency in this state, which further is defined as potentially an emergency medical service. So we are limited in those areas. I won't tell you that I have not considered and really would like to see coroners in there, but that has not yet been brought to bear.
Members, any other questions? Okay, seeing none, we are going to go ahead and move to testimony and support. We will start in Carson City, then head to Las Vegas. If you are here to testify in support, please approach the witness table.
Good afternoon, Vice Chair Hadley, members of the committee. My name is John Abel. I represent the LVPPA, which is the Metro Officers in Las Vegas. And we obviously support this bill. I want to thank you again, Assemblymember Hadley, for bringing that bill last session. It's definitely been impactful on many of our officers, as you know. I thought about stories I would tell, because right next to me, I've been an officer for 18 years. I've been to many of these calls, and one that sticks out in my mind, and I won't get too gruesome with you, but responded to a woman who was killed by her boyfriend who was pregnant. And as I secured the scene, she's laying there on the floor with a knife sticking out of her neck. And I'm in there for probably 30 minutes or so. And the CSI or ID tech is in there the entire time with them. In fact, I asked, who has to pull the knife out of this poor woman's neck? And it was the CSI tech that had to do it to preserve the evidence. And they are not hopefully going to be covered under this bill. So for that reason, we support it. Thanks so much.
Thank you for your testimony. Is there anyone else in Carson City wishing to testify in support? Okay, seeing none, we will move to Las Vegas. You may begin when you're ready.
Good afternoon, Vice Chair and members of the committee. My name is Kristen Grammas, Kristin Grammas, and I'm here today on behalf of the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department to testify in support of Assembly Bill 142. I am the CSI Director at LVMPD. I want to discuss something often overlooked but incredibly important when it comes to the work of crime scene analysts, the impact of PTSD. Being exposed to graphic images, death, violence, and human suffering can take a toll on their mental health. They witness unimaginable trauma on a daily basis. Assembly Bill 142 4A states, the employees has a mental injury caused by extreme stress due to directly witnessing the death or aftermath of death of a person as a result of a violent event, including without limitation, a homicide, suicide, or mass casualty incident. In 2024, the CSI section responded to 841 dead body calls. 200 of those calls were autopsies. Approximately 2,895 hours were spent on 128 homicide calls last year. CSAs also responded to the tragedy of 1 October and the killing spree of UNLV. They also work cases where an officer is killed in the line of duty. Our job is to document the scene and recover the evidence, which includes responding to the autopsy. At autopsy, the CSA recovers the officer's uniform and badge. The badge is given to the family of the officer. These calls are particularly hard because we have lost a member of our own law enforcement family. The next portion of the bill states an injury or aftermath of an injury that involves grievous bodily harm of a nature that shocks the conscience. Crime scene investigators respond to other tragic scenes such as child abuse, sexual assault, neglect, shootings, and attempt homicides, to name a few. Last year, the CSI section responded to 8,261 person crime calls, with 838 of them being shooting scenes. The last thing I would like to address is the exposure to secondary trauma. Exposure to the trauma of others can lead to a secondary trauma, contributing to PTSD. CSAs are at scenes with the victims' families, oftentimes crying over the bodies of their loved ones. PTSD is a reality for many in this profession. While these investigators are trained to handle the technical aspects of their jobs, the emotional burden of witnessing tragic events can be overwhelming. The effects of PTSD are not always visible, but they can deeply affect an investigator's ability to perform their duties and lead to long-term mental health challenges. Sadly, the stigma surrounding mental health in CSI can prevent individuals from seeking help. This is why this change in AB 142 is so important. It's time to recognize PTSD as a valid and severe consequence of work as CSIs. Just as we have extended coverage for law enforcement officers,
Thank you so much for your
firefighters.
testimony. We are going to have to move on to the next testifier. We appreciate you being here, and if you could please submit your testimony in writing to the committee secretary down there so we can include it in the meeting exhibits. Thank you so much. Next testifier, please.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Sabrina Steinmetz, Sabrina Steinmetz. I work for LVMPD as a senior crime scene analyst. As a crime scene analyst, we respond to various crime scenes, including death investigations that range in severity, manner, and age from newborns to geriatric and include animal deaths. These investigations include accidental, suicides, homicides, fatal traffic accidents, fire deaths, and officer-involved shootings. We see death in its varying conditions and trauma, from beaten, stabbed, shot, run over, decapitated, eviscerated, burned, decomposed, and with amputated limbs. Documenting the scene is a long and time-consuming process and includes looking through and touching biological material like blood, decomposition fluid, and even brain matter to find evidence. This includes mass casualties like multiple deaths in a car accident or fire scene, or something as large as 1 October. Last year, I personally worked 54 calls involving dead bodies and assisted on multiple others. That's more than one per week if I worked every week of the year. We document officer deaths within our agency and assist other agencies in Southern Nevada. This includes the scene and autopsies of those officers. It doesn't matter if you knew the officer personally or not. Those calls are especially challenging and traumatic. We respond to autopsies at the coroner's office and document the dead bodies. I worked an autopsy of a toddler where I spent the entire day, over 10 hours, photographing the extensive visible injuries on the body, and then the extensive internal injuries, including internal bruising and extreme trauma to several organs. Our exposure to these events is for an extended period of time. Often we clear from a call only to immediately respond to another event. After we clear the scene, we have to handle the items of evidence, recall the images and notes, and work to complete our work product. Then again, recall the information and photographs when we're preparing for court testimony weeks, months, and even years later. We repeatedly expose ourselves to these traumatic images and reports in order to do our jobs properly and thoroughly. I love what I do as a CSA. I am proud and honored to work for the LVMPD and serve our community, but the job doesn't come without its physical, mental, and emotional challenges and sacrifices. I strongly urge the committee to support Assembly Bill 142. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much for your testimony. Next testifier, please.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Samantha Halm, SAMANTHAHALM, and I am a crime scene analyst. Why did I choose this career? I was a victim of a sexual assault when I was a child. The suspect lived a long, free life at his residence blocks away from me. There was insufficient evidence to convict him, and I decided to be part of the solution and be the person to get evidence to put people like that away. I've been a crime scene analyst for 10 years. And I can tell you some horrific things, but words can never truly describe how it feels to hold a 5-year-old boy with new and old injuries throughout his body and have to wait for him to unthaw to conduct a proper autopsy, or to work the death of a patrol officer and see her with a self-inflicted gunshot wound to her head just weeks after working a scene with her. Sorry. Or to work 1 October and be paired going with a coroner body to body and then witness the victim's family cry and pray over his corpse. Or dig through blood-soaked hair and brain matter of the victims trying to find the bullet holes that killed them. 2 minutes will never be sufficient time to convey how much suffering and trauma we are exposed to day in and day out. Perhaps yours wouldn't be either. I've worked hundreds and not thousands of suicides, and it terrifies me that I relate more and more to them throughout my career. I realized I needed help, and I sought it. I was put in an intensive therapy outpatient program. When I asked what I wanted out of the program, it came down to one word: hope. Being knee deep in the worst of humanity and society does a number on mental health, and today I'm hoping that you see that we need this. But we need you to do as what I once done and become part of the solution. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your testimony and thank you for sharing your story. I know it's difficult to have to relive those experiences, but what you're doing matters. So thank you. Next testifier, please.
Good afternoon, Chair People and members of the committee. My name is Glazelle Tapay. That's GLEZZELLETAPAY. And I'm a senior crime scene analyst with Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department, and I've been working in CSI for over 9 years. I believe that this job affects a person beyond some people's control due to exposure of the horrific calls over time. I personally have a dog, and I believe that the dog is my family, and I've gone to very many calls where I've documented mutilated, abused, and dead dogs. I have had to photograph an innocent baby lying in a nursing pillow on the floor with a gunshot wound between its eyes. The baby had the burnt muzzle imprint and stippling from the gun that was pressed to its face. I've documented a 13-year-old who thought the only answer was suicide by hanging himself from the second-story railing, only for his 7-year-old brother to find him later. I have been affected so dramatically by this career that the majority of my thoughts are now linked with a crime scene. I look at my boyfriend's work boots and I think the only color... I look at my boyfriend's work boots and I think that the same color and same style of the boots that Trooper Micah May wore when he got hit by a car and driven partially down I-15. If my friend gets a bloody nose, the blood I see is from the helmet of Officer Shane McAlonis during the 2020 riots when he was shot in the head. I see the same dark red coagulated blood and brain matter when I responded to a suicide in the winter. It was so cold that his blood was steaming and it actually warmed my fingers. This is someone's son, someone's brother, someone's father, and now I'm scavenging through what was once an intact brain, now a puddle on the ground. I'm passionate about this job, and most of all, I am passionate about protecting the well-being of those affected by the by the part of the job that no one talks about or sees. I am here today to be the voice for them so they do not have to visit their traumas alone. No matter how strong someone is, it is inevitable to avoid at least one call they can never erase from their minds. And one call is all it takes. Although I wish I had more time to explain the totality of the detrimental effects of this job, I would like to thank you for your time, and I greatly appreciate the opportunity to be here. Your support means a lot to myself and to the CSI section.
Thank you for being here, and thank you for sharing your story. Again, what you guys are doing matters. Sharing your personal stories matters. So thank you for your strength in being here. Next testifier.
Good afternoon, Vice Chairperson and members of the committee. My name is Tabitha Payne. That is spelled Tabatha, P as in Paul, A, I, N as in Nancy, E. I work for the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department Crime Scene Investigations Section as a crime scene analyst supervisor. When I came into this position in 2014, I could be described as bubbly, vivacious, sweet, and positive. I was always the first person on to volunteer to participate in events on my days off, and always eager to talk about my career. We call that a blue flame. It has now been 11 years. In those 11 years, I have seen brutal and savage homicide scenes, horrific child abuse and neglect that often results in death, horrendous fatal traffic accidents with victims mangled and torn apart. I've seen grieving mothers, fathers, and partners who have just lost their most important people to suicide. I have seen evil and even looked it in the eyes. I have seen things that most people could not imagine in their worst nightmares. I've seen my hometown now become a graveyard of sights, sounds, smells, and experiences that live inside of me. I have lost colleagues to substance abuse and to suicide, all things that I will never forget. What impact does that have on a person? Here's a few things, and this just scratches the surface. Those closest to me have told me that I have changed, that I'm no longer the sweet person I used to be, that I'm not as outgoing, and that my spark is gone. I now have anxiety, something that I never experienced prior to having this career. Anxiety that makes me feel like I want to crawl out of my own skin. It's crippling, and now it's a part of me for always. I was faced with a huge personal loss in 2023. I lost my father. At the very moment that I saw him flatline, it was clear to me that something inside of me had been irreversibly altered. As I was facing such a huge loss before my eyes, it was like my brain was a computer with a virus. Inside my mind, I was trying to block it out, but what I was seeing and feeling continued to replay on a vicious cycle over and over again, while my learned compartmentalization continued to fight and fail. As rewarding as my career is, it is also completely altering my brain chemistry. To close, I strongly urge the committee to support Assembly Bill 142. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your testimony. Next testifier.
Good afternoon, chairpersons and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Carla Scott, C-A-R-L-A-S-C-O-T-T. I am the president of the Las Vegas Police Protective Association Civilian Employees. We represent over 1,500 full-time civilian employees of the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. You have just heard testimony from several of my union members who are the subject matter experts in their field. These first responders play a vital role in the mission of LVMPD and throughout Southern Nevada Valley, acting as first responders in the field of collecting and analyzing critical pieces of evidence of crime scenes. They respond to every type of call, from fatal traffic accidents, child abuse, homicides, burglaries, and everything in between. They see the aftermath of the horrific crime scenes and accidents. The evidence they collect puts together critical puzzle pieces for victims. The conditions they work in is often harsh as they are exposed to the elements and have to be constantly alert of their surroundings. As a licensed master social worker in the state of Nevada, the daily grind, knowing the daily grind that these crime scene investigators do takes a toll on what they witness, and as a community and legislators, I strongly urge you to support Assembly Bill 142.
Thank you so much for your testimony. Next testifier.
Good afternoon, Madam Vice Chair and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Bobby West, B-O-B-B-I-E-W-E-S-T. I also work for LVP PACE like Carla Scott. I'm currently the Vice President and the Treasurer. The work crime scene investigators do is exciting for many who play the role while watching from their living room couch. But our employees are not robots. They're humans with empathy and compassion, yet have the ability to compartmentalize in order to complete the daily tasks that are required of them and still function in their personal lives. However, for some weeks turn into years as they are flooded with images and reminders of those crime scenes. Ultimately, this can take a toll on them physically, mentally, and emotionally. Based on the testimony you've just heard from our union members who are subject matter experts in the field, I strongly urge the committee to support Assembly Bill 142. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your testimony. Next testifier.
Good afternoon, Madam Chairperson and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Michelle Kmetz, M-I-C-H-E-L-L-E-K-M-E-T-Z. I also work for the Las Vegas Police Protective Civilian Association as the secretary. I strongly urge the committee to support Assembly Bill 142. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your testimony. Is there anyone else in Las Vegas wishing to testify in support? AVH, could we check the telephone lines?
Chair, the public lines are open and working, but we have no callers to testify in support at this time.
Thank you, AVH. And before we move on to opposition, I do want to thank everyone who came to testify in support to share their personal stories. I know how difficult it is, but it's courageous of you to be here and know that your collective voices are important and are going to make a difference. So thank you. Is there anyone here in Carson City wishing to testify in opposition? Seeing none, is there anyone in Las Vegas wishing to testify in opposition? Seeing none, AVH, can you please check the telephone line?
Chair, we have no callers to testify in opposition.
Thank you. Is there anyone in Carson City wishing to testify in the neutral position? Is there anyone in Las Vegas wishing to testify in the neutral position? Seeing none, AVH, can we check the telephone line?
Chair, we have no callers to testify in neutral.
Okay, at this time, I would like to call Chair Marzola back for closing statements. Thank you, Chair Marzola.
Thank you, Vice Chair Elaine Marzola, for the record. I just want to quickly thank the committee for hearing this bill today. It is such an important legislation, but also I want to just give thanks for everyone that supported this bill and was able to come and testify in front of people that they don't know and tell such deep-rooted pain that they've been feeling. So I will let it stand there. Their voices are a lot more important than mine. They live this day in, day out. So I just want to say thank you for the support and thank you to the committee.
Thank you. I will now close the hearing on Assembly Bill 142. The committee will stand in recess.
The committee will come back to order. I will now open up for public comment. Please address your remarks to issues that fall within the jurisdiction of this committee. Public comment is limited to 2 minutes per person. Please remember to state and spell your name for the record. Is there anyone here in Carson City wishing to testify in support? I don't see anyone. Is there anyone in Las Vegas wishing to testify in support? Broadcast, is there anyone on the line?
Chair, the public lines are open and working, but we have no callers to provide public comment at this time.
Thank you. Are there any comments, committee members, before I adjourn? I don't see any. This will conclude our meeting for today. Meeting's adjourned.